health seekers, Inga from Health Origins here. So tonight I'm gonna attempt to recreate my childhood recipe, cookies with apples, or in this case homemade apple sauce I've got. So let's start. We've got the ingredients here. You probably noticed that I've got some savoury things here. What I'm gonna do, because the dough is very neutral, it's not sweet or anything, I'm gonna try and make kind of a Lithuanian, my childhood little pizza kind of topping in there for part of it. So basically what me and my sister used to do, we would used to fry onion, fry carrot, a bit of ketchup, and that used to be just yummy pizza topping, I remember. So I'm gonna try and do little pizza parcels from that dough. We'll see how that works. But anyway, for the cookies, for the apple cookies, we'll need, I'm doubling the recipe here, so everything is double. So I've got 500 grams of whole grain plain flour, so it's very finely milled. It's softer wheat varieties from Dove's Farm, I get it. So it acts very similar to just white flour, okay? And then I've got, so the original recipe that I'm trying, Lithuanian recipe this is, but the original recipe I'm trying to recreate has 250 grams of butter. And obviously we're not using butter here, and I normally don't use oil in my recipes either. So I think what you could replace, if you're doing like a whole foods recipe on this, what you could do is you could replace it with probably cashew butter would be your best replacement for the whole 250 grams, okay? Whereas I've done, I had some coconut oil left over from quite a while ago, and I wanted to use it because I'm doing a coffee morning at work tomorrow. So so I just thought I'm gonna use this up, and it wasn't enough, so I had to add a bit of peanut butter here. So this makes up 250 grams. Then I've got a chia egg. So you know, most of you will probably know what chia egg is ground chia seeds. So a tablespoon of seeds I've ground, and then I put 5 tablespoons of water and let it sit for a few minutes, and then it becomes like a goopy mass here like this. So that's your chia egg. Then I've got some tofu sour cream that I made myself from silken tofu, some apple cider vinegar and some salt. So that's your sour cream. And then I've got, obviously, like I showed you already, my homemade apple sauce, which is made from apples that have fallen in my garden, quite green, so not really edible yet. Brine apples, I believe. So they have fallen too early with the wind that we had. So I've cooked them with some pears, also from our garden, and a little bit of sugar. So I've cooked them into this kind of a bit of a chunky puree. It's not a puree, I've kind of left some bits a little bit whole. So that, and then to finish off, we've got a little bit of brown castor sugar. So I've just, sorry, that was the tap. So I've ground a bit of demerara sugar to make like a castor sugar. So a teaspoon of that and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. So that's kind of all ingredients for these cookies, and my oven is preheating at 180 degrees. The recipe said 170, but my oven just doesn't really get that hot, so I thought I'll do it on 180. So basically what you want to do, this is your flour. So I'll put a little pinch, well, a good pinch of salt in here, mix it up, and then I'm gonna add my the fat. So I'm gonna add these in, and we're gonna crumble up the flour So work it in. So basically we're making kind of a short crust pastry, if you like. So that's the kind of dough we're aiming for. So if you know this kind of dough, you shouldn't knead it for too long, and it's best for you, you know, touch it as least as possible with your hands, so that the butter, you know, in this case obviously coconut oil, does not melt. So I'm just mixing this roughly in with this spatula, and then I'm gonna be probably going in with my hands and kind of crumbling up more. But like I said, I don't want to touch it with my hands for too long, so that not to melt the butter, sorry, the oil, coconut oil. And this recipe says to rest the dough in the fridge for about an hour, and I don't have this time because it's kind of getting late and I'm in a hurry, so I'm not going to be resting the dough for an hour. That's why it's even more important not to make this coconut oil melt. And then I'm going to go in with the hands and quickly try and work them in to make it into even crumbs here. And try not to melt them too much. It might help if your hands are quite cold, guys, for this step. Right, so now we've got pretty uniform crumbs of sorts. The coconut oil is starting to melt a little bit in my hands. But anyway, so I'm gonna add the chia egg now, and also the sour cream. And give it a good mix. Unfortunately, guys, the camera cut out on me when I was, kneading this by hands a little bit. What I was saying was that you shouldn't knead for too long and hold this dough for too long, because obviously your coconut oil is melting, and also the mistake I made with this, the coconut oil I had was not from the fridge, so it's best obviously to keep your fats in the fridge so that it's colder, and because it was already room temperature, it's melting even more now when I'm kind of handling it. So I try to handle it as least as possible, and you don't want to over knead it also, because you don't want the gluten to develop too much. Because if the gluten develop too much, you'll not get a shortcut pastry, but you get a more chewy pastry, okay, like a bread. So you don't want that. So try not to handle it too much. So I've already put it in the bowl, and I will actually chill the dough, and I'll have to, give you the recipe a different time, because I'll not be able to post it today on Wednesday, but you'll see it on Sunday, guys. But I need to chill this so that I make this properly. So I'll catch up with you in an hour's time. So guys, I've cheated a little bit. I didn't put it in the fridge for an hour like I said. What I did was I put it in the freezer for about 20 minutes. And it kind of hardened quite a bit, so we're gonna take a piece of it, maybe a fourth of that, and gonna try and roll it. It's a little bit hardened, almost too much, because it's getting crumbly a bit. So yeah, I'm gonna try and just heat up just slightly, and I've got my rolling pin. I'm gonna try and roll it out on the counter. I've cleaned obviously the counter really well and dried it up, so so that I could roll this. So it is quite, yeah, I think I need to just give it a couple more kneads to just slightly warm it up so it's not as brittle, because you don't want the dough too brittle, because then you can't roll and make a nice uniform dough. Yeah, if it's falling apart. So I'm just gonna try and not break it apart too much and roll it out. It'll probably work better with the more solid. In fact, what I actually recommend you do, and I think I'll try it again in a second, I'll put baking sheet underneath that, because then you know you can peel it off easier. Because now if this gets stuck to the worktop, I will have trouble getting this off the counter now. Okay, so but if you put it on the baking sheet, guys, that will then, you know, solve this issue of this tearing when you try and lift it. So obviously you can just peel the paper off the back really easily then. So let me get the baking sheet. So I've got the baking sheet here, so let's start again. So let's try and make this into a thinner sheet. And it's yeah, it's definitely easier on a parchment or baking paper like this. You can get it rolled out much thinner than you would on the counter. So basically what we need to grab a knife, and we need to cut this into squares, okay, because our cookie shape's gonna be squares. So it needs to be about 5-6 centimeter squares. So if I cut it like that and cut the edge off, and like that, square it off, and I've got 4 squares so far. So basically how the cookie is formed, you need a teaspoon. So how the cookie is formed, you put a teaspoon of either you can put an apple, you know, so sometimes these are made with apple, but you can put you know, this apple puree or apple sauce if you like, and just in the middle, so about a teaspoon there. And then what you need to do, you need to pick up 2 opposite corners and then make a little parcel out of it, like so. And that is kind of 1 cookie. Alright, so we're gonna do the same with the rest of them. It is actually a little bit thick, the dough, how I rolled it. Perhaps I'll try and roll it a little bit finer, but then, you know, it might tear if we're not careful. It might be too fine. So yeah, you just pinch the 2 corners together, and we've got 4 cookies. So I'm gonna continue on with the rest of the dough, and we're gonna get these ready to put into the oven. In the meantime, my oven is warming on 180, and it wasn't warming all this time, guys, when it was in the freezer. In case you were wondering, I switched my oven off when I put this, you know, dough to rest. So I'm gonna, you know, make these cookies and we're gonna bake them. So now I've got my apple cookies ready here, except that before putting them in the oven, we need to do something finishing touch. So I've got this casta demerara sugar with some cinnamon mixed in. It smells nice. And I'm gonna just sprinkle this on top of each cookie. So you could use like a little sieve or something, but I'll just sprinkle it with my fingers. Just sprinkle nice and liberal, actually, because it'll give this that much needed extra sweetness, because we didn't put any sugar in the dough, and the apple sauce or apple puree is quite a bit of it's not too sweet. It's got a bit of sourness as well, so sweet and sour. So I'm gonna put more of this powder to just give that needed bit of extra sweetness. Alright, so now that's done, guys. I'm going to do a few savoury kind of bakes, if you like. So I've got bigger squares, maybe 8 centimeters by 8 centimeters, and I've cooked an onion, a carrot, grated carrot, chopped onion, grated carrot, couple of tablespoons of ketchup, and I put a bit of, when I was dry frying it, I kept on putting a little bit of green olive brine and tiny bit of salt. And then at the end, afterwards, I put a bit of nutritional yeast in there as well. So that's what this mixture is. So again, I'll put like a generous teaspoon of the filling. You can put a little bit bigger than obviously than in the cookies, because it's slightly bigger piece, but you don't want to overload it either. And now we'll do what we did with the cookies, except that this time we also gonna press the other two corners as well. Oops, it's a little bit brittle, guys, so I think you need to do them all like at the same time. So gather all ends and try and do them all at the same time. Try and press it. So hopefully they'll keep like that. Try and press it together. So yeah, so we've got a bit like a parcel, if you like. Okay, so I'm going to do a few of these and we're going to be putting them together in the oven. So guys, I've got my sweets and my savouries ready to be put in the oven for 20 minutes. There you go, guys, the finished cookies. So they're looking quite nice and brown. So let's do the taste test. So these are the cookies, and I also got the little mini pizza thing. So I put a couple of these here. So I'm going to start with the mini pizza pocket. They are nice, guys, especially it's still warm. They're like a really good Cornish. It's a bit cheesy, a little bit savoury. Because I think the ketchup mixed with the nutritional yeast flakes gives it kind of like a tangy cheesiness kind of taste. And the onions and carrots are awesome. So yeah, that really works actually for the Savoury pocket, so give that a go, guys. But now onto the sweet. It's way too late at night to be trying this, but you know, I have to sacrifice for greater good for you guys, for my videos. So here I go. I'm gonna taste test this apple cookie for you, because I need to also know if they're any good to take to my colleagues tomorrow morning. So let's have a little bite. Oh guys, that also works. There's a tanginess come through, but it really works well, and I think I got the pastry right, because it's nice and kind of melt in your mouth texture. It's not chewy or anything. It's more kind of sophisticated and refined, and more like a digestive kind of biscuit rather than, you know, like a white flour short crust. But there's like really depth to these cookies, and I think Mark is dying to try one as well. So yeah, guys, actually the experiment really worked. I think I'm gonna be happy to take these to work tomorrow, and in fact I'm entering 6 of these into a competition that's happening in a Durham cafe. So I'll let you know how that goes, if they like my cookies, or it's called Vegan Bake Off. They hold this little competition, so we'll see what they think of them. But yeah, guys, I hope you give this a go. Let me know if you do. If you like the video, give me thumbs up, subscribe for more videos, and see you on Sunday, guys. Sorry, this is gonna be on Sunday. See you in my next video.